Good afternoon, class. Excuse the fact that I am a little sick right now, but just try to bear with. I have some notes for you right there, John. You just take a seat. So we're going to go over proper ear care and ear hygiene. So I'm going to pass out a couple things now, and as I'm passing it out, I want you guys just to kind of flip your notes over on the back, and I want you to just collab with the person next to you about different habits you have with cleaning your ears, maybe just taking proper care of them, what that looks like, and then maybe some habits that you guys want to create that maybe you don't do. So I'm going to give you guys just about a minute to do that. So just take one of my models and just take one and pass it along. And please give me all that stuff back when Tony, I'm speaking to you. Okay.
It feels great to push a new bar. That's
So they say you're not supposed to use Q-tips. If you do, it's barely supposed to protrude.
I usually floss my ears.
But you know they're so good. It's like scratching like a dog's ear.
I know. I clean my ears every day. I have showers.
For other things.
Maybe. I like the discussion. All right. Just take one and just keep passing it along. TJ, please be a little bit nicer to Joanna. All right, everyone eyes up here. So can I have one person from each of your groups come up, and then I want you to just write some things that you had talked about on the board.
Was I meant?
Well, I don't like how those.
That's part of it. Just one, if you want to hold on to them.
They're like stuck.
We'll just write what we talked
Right what you talked about.
It was how do you take care of your ears, right?
Ear care and ear hygiene. Anything that you came up with while you were chatting.
Disinfect.
You like to disinfect.
We'll might put it before we do.
I'll get it.
Alright, yeah. Cleaning, disinfecting with nice wipes.
Here.
Hold on, I gotta draw my shower head.
Here.
Draw my shower head.
Here.
Very nice, Drew. Thank you.
Ah, snatchy. Oh, Pierce's glad I did that. Oh, fix that.
Oh, that's not allowed in my house.
Really?
Here's 501 ear.
That's good. That's good. Well, not that you have 5. But. Thank you, Beth. I like the hustle. That's good, TJ. It's really good.
I wanted to do it at a concert, but it was way too loud.
All right, guys, eyes up here. Let's just take a quick look. So a couple of things. We have care for my ears through wearing earplugs at Convo and campus community. Okay. We'll definitely talk about that. Disinfect headphones. I like that. Cleaning piercings. That's definitely super important. Cleaning ears via Q-tip post shower with a shower head at the top. Very nice. Cool. So we have our favorite old man grandpa here, and if you could tell, he has a hearing aid. And you know, we all love and appreciate this guy. And when he doesn't want to listen, he just turns you down. So right off the bat, so ear care and protection is vital to adequate health. The outer ear should be cleaned regularly with water and soft soap, so kind of hitting it right on par with most of that shower head. But here's where we're going to have a little bit of disagreement. You guys can start filling in your notes. Actually using Q-tips is a big controversy, and the biggest thing is because you could potentially push wax into farther down your ear canal, and also potentially puncture your eardrum if you're doing it real vigorously. So they say actually one of the best ways of keeping ear wax from buildup from occurring is to really just clean the outsides of your ears and the light insides of your ears thoroughly. And there we go. Just what we were talking about. Yes, Drew.
What about using those wax candles that like pull the wax out?
So I've actually never heard of that.
Some that you can see at the mall.
Okay. Okay. Is there like pros and cons to using one of those?
Supposedly you light it and it like pulls the pressure, like pulls it outward. And like people have told me like they've even had things like wood chips come out from when they were working days before. Where like
Wow.
it's supposed to really clean your ears in a way that's not so
That's
invasive.
smart.
That's pretty impressive.
I've heard about those. I did research, and there's controversy on both ends.
Okay, so it's kind of like Q-tips where some people use them, some people don't.
Yeah.
Right up here, my man. So, all right, guys. Another quick problem we could have is swimmer's ears. So the big thing whenever you get out of the water, shower or swimming, if you do end up having a ton of pain, that could usually occur from swimmer's ear. A lot of water buildup could start an infection in your ear, and it develops in long periods of time. And the biggest thing is what happens if it occurs. Does anyone know what an audiologist is?
Yes.
A hearing doctor.
A hearing doctor, perfect. John, just raise your hand next time. And yeah, that's perfect, exactly. Kind of like a hearing doctor, specialist, perfect. So, ear examinations. An audiologist, I don't know how to sound this out, but an otolaryngologist. An audiologist is a specialist who diagnoses, treats hearing and speech-related problems. So if you have swimmer's ear, you have an infection going on, you want to visit them right away, they can help you and figure out kind of the best route, medication, all that to get you back and healthy. And an ENT is a physician who diagnoses, treats disorders of the ear, the nose, and the throat. An ENT can recommend hearing devices and perform surgery. So, such as this guy right here, maybe he met with an ENT to figure out if, it was smart for him to, and in his case, he was pretty much completely deaf, so it is very wise to, contact a physician to help get you what you need to kind of enjoy life to its fullest. The biggest thing is the Eschian tube. So this is the tube that connects the middle of the ear and to the back of the nose. It allows fluid to drain from the middle ear, and it regulates air pressure from the middle ear to both sides of the eardrum. And if the middle ear fills with fluid, which is kind of like swimmer's ear that we were just talking about, the eardrum can vibrate as it should. Therefore, your hearing kind of gets all disrupted. Air pressure also increases the Eschian tube, and it slightly affects hearing. So does anyone anyone been on a plane before? Perfect. Tony, what happens when you're on a plane with your ears?
Your ears get plugged. And excuse me, Tony.
Thank you.
Your ears get plugged, and it's hard to hear.
It's hard to hear. And sometimes you gulp, right, to get some of that pressure out. Yeah.
If you swallow it.
Tony?
Opposite too. Like when I was diving, I used to have to hold my nose and push pressure to blow it out of my ears.
Yeah, because it would just build up, and it just kind of creates brain fog. Can't really focus. It almost can get painful for some people. Yeah, for sure. So deep in that picture, you can see where the ear canal meets the eardrum. And obviously, if pressure is building up on both of those sides and that can't vibrate, you're going to have an increased amount of pain because you have a nerve that's going right to there. And anytime we have pain, it's usually from nerves that are signaling something that it doesn't really want to enjoy. And so, hearing loss. Does anyone know anybody with hearing loss? Yeah. Perfect. Daisy, you want to share a little about that?
My dad has hearing loss from his tinnitus, actually. Well, it's because his ringing in his ears is so loud, he can't hear external stimulus.
Yeah. Beth, did you have a comment?
Yeah, my grandfather.
So like older people? Yeah. So it's actually funny you brought up the ringing, because in that ringing part of kind of what people hear, in the past, they may have been incorporated in some like really high noise level part of an activity, and has anyone ever experienced that ringing noise where you see in the movies it's like a grenade goes off, and TJ has? So unfortunately, and I have it too, or I've had it, anytime you hear that ringing noise, you've lost slight permanent hearing loss. You can't get that back. So the more you hear that ringing is the greater your risk of having permanent hearing loss, and it usually fades away once the event's over. So for example, I was using a jackhammer on a construction site and didn't have any ear protection in, and I didn't think anything of it. And when I was finally done using the machine, I went home and I just had this like really high-pitched light whine in my ear the whole night, and it went away. I didn't think anything of it. My friend told me, he was like, yeah, like that's why people who shoot guns, people who use power tools, they always have ear protection, because anytime you hear that ringing, it's signaling that you actually have had permanent damage to your hearing. So, yeah, Beth.
What about those people who just like suddenly hear rain in their ear? Have you ever had that?
Like in a car.
Yeah.
In a car?
Cars that close and you just stay in it.
I mean, just like in general. I mean, it could be, but like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
just like doing something and then all of a sudden you get this ring in your ear.
Well, to notice is when you have the constant ringing in your ears.
Tinnitus, yeah.
There you go. Perfect. So, yeah. So, and I don't have all the answers to every ringing noise. I just know that for noise-induced hearing loss, it usually occurs with a ringing bell in your head, and it signals that you have a little bit of hearing loss. And if it's repeated, you could potentially have you could go to complete total deafness. So that's kind of in here. So 1 in 10 people, obviously we have more than 1 out of 10 of us that have had some hearing loss. More than half of 18-year-olds have had some hearing loss. Anyone kind of know why you want to think that? Joanna, what's up?
Concerts.
Concerts, perfect.
Well, music like headphones and.
Headphones, perfect.
I'm just saying, like you were in your situation, just like not thinking about being in situations where they could protect their ears.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, perfect. So, kind of like we were talking about earlier, potential causes of deafness can include premature birth, respiratory distress at birth, exposure to drugs or infection, viral infection, middle ear infection, high fevers and injuries, but also the one that kind of is very relatable to most of us is noise-induced hearing loss, which we just talked about a little bit ago. The second most common kind of hearing loss after age-related. So everyone's grandpa that has hearing aids and almost hates them because they don't work. This is the next leading kind of form of potential deafness. So noise-induced hearing loss is slow loss of hearing due to high amounts of noise, kind of like we were discussing earlier with the jackhammer, concerts, anything that's really intense on the eardrums. I mean, if you look back to this picture, you can see how tiny your eardrum is comparative to your ear. So you're putting a ton of decibel frequency, and that little eardrum can only take so much, and at one day it's just going to give out if it's continued to have repeated high level of noise. And the worst thing is you could have a hearing loss for the remainder of your life if this kind of continues. And how do you find out? Get tested by ENT or audiologist. Perfect, exactly. So kind of those hearing specialists, as Joanna so cleverly said earlier. Hearing is either conductive or sensorineural. In conductive hearing loss, the sound is not transported efficiently from the outer to the inner ear. And it can be caused by middle ear infections of excessive wax buildup and a birth defect, but sensorineural, which is maybe a little bit more of the common one, is damage to the inner ear acoustic nerve. So kind of like we were talking about earlier, that eardrum's connected to the acoustic nerve, which is connected to the brain. So it's kind of deciphering how it's going to kind of relay all those messages of what you're hearing, your favorite artist Jack Johnson, or your favorite, convo speaker. It's gonna help decipher all of that. So if that's severed at all, or it's just permanently damaged, you're completely ridding your brain of the chance to even try to hear. And then that's where cochlear implants, which are like hearing aids, are helpful. They're just never quite like it was. So it's kind of, I always err on you'd rather be preventative than reactive when it comes to hearing, because it's super frustrating when I'm talking with Daisy and we're trying to have a conversation. I just cannot decipher what she's trying to say. It seems like she's almost in a different language, and that would be frustrating for her as well. So it's ultimately gonna affect all of your relationships around you. So it's kind of, in my opinion, smarter to be preventative and more cautious with kind of what's in my life, what's causing some of these potential like ringing noises in my head, or whatever. Maybe I should get checked out, but also like what can I change now, like Q-tips, maybe cleaning some piercings to kind of like decrease the ear infection probability, So all these things are great. You guys are doing really good on this. I'm really stoked on a lot of that stuff because I didn't even talk about piercings at all, so that was perfect. And then sensorineural, people with this hearing loss usually receive cochlear implants, kind of like the grandpa from Up he had, and it's connected to the eardrum, and also there's implant electrodes in the cochlear, which is, kind of looks like a shell inside your head. So here's what we really want to discuss. Anyone know what that is? Walkman, perfect. Apple headphones, and on the far left, TJ? MP3s, perfect.
We're like the final generation.
Yeah, seriously. So, audiologists have warned that listening to loud music can pose serious threat to your hearing. This can be just from listening to an assortment of music. So, TJ, what's some of your favorite music?
Oh, man. Christian music.
Christian music?
What have I been listening to lately? I like Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson. Talked about him briefly. Sweet. Maybe what's some of your favorite music when you're working out? Drew. Eminem.
Hey.
A little bit different of a decibel change from Eminem to Jack Johnson, maybe. Do you listen to your like your Eminem tracks like at full blast or 80%, 50%, 20%?
I put everything on full blast and it still doesn't sound loud enough.
So maybe anyone think that Drew might want to go see a hearing specialist soon to kind of go get some of that checked out? Joanna's throwing her hand up. Daisy?
For me, it depends on what I'm doing. So like if I'm working out, I don't want to be able to hear other people.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to like have it up, not too loud, but
Sure.
I don't want to be hearing everyone's conversations. But like
For sure.
if I'm just like walking around campus, I have it down lower.
A little bit lower.
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah. There's even some noise canceling headphones that mute out the environment and everything that's going on around you, but they're also not overpowering like kind of the music that's directly going into your head. So one of the rules of thumbs is it says you should only people who listen to 85 decibels for 8 hours can develop a hearing loss. I personally don't know what 85 decibels is. I probably should have put it in this presentation. But another rule of thumb that they also said was that if you are playing your music and people that are around you can hear it, it's most likely way too loud. And it's actually most likely at a very dangerous level. So just kind of something to consider. A lot of this is going to be kind of like, what relates to me? How can I make a change? Because I obviously don't want to see any of you guys in 10, 15, 20, 40 years that are like, hey man, I've got ear implants because, you know, or hearing aids because I just love, you know, rocking out to Eminem every day at 150%. Like, no one wants that, you know? So my biggest thing is take some of these, apply some of these things that we're talking about here. They're definitely on the bottom of your sheet, and we can definitely kind of maybe prevent future hearing loss. So kind of like we just talked about. Ear protection. So who has in-ear headphones on their desk? You do, you do, you do. Joanna does. Perfect. So anyone with in-ear headphones, yes, perfect. They recommend that you don't use them because it already puts you at a greater risk. They recommend you kind of using the overhead kind of headphones. So who has cotton swabs? And it has nothing to do with music. Ty has cotton swabs. So those are also not good. So all of those things are creating kind of maybe potential infections, hearing loss, and who has the ear protection? Oh, Daisy, perfect. So yeah, those are in a case. You kind of squish them up, you throw them in your ears, and I actually take those to the gun range because obviously you don't want gun blast going off all near your ears. So that's actually the only form of protection I had in there. So everyone else who had the headphones, so Daisy, you're kind of like half and half, but everyone else is deaf. So that stinks.
I'm deaf and safe.
So she's deaf and safe. So obviously, like my man over here from the 1920s, he's rocking a jackhammer with no overhead ear protection. So he's definitely going deaf by the age of 25. I'm just kidding. I don't know how that is. But obviously, like you guys saw, you know, we want to kind of steer clear, or at least if we are using in-ear phones, listen to them at 60% for 60 minutes a day, kind of max. Try to keep it below that. Obviously, when it comes to ear care, don't insert objects in your ear. Make sure you're cleaning the outsides of your ears vigorously with soft water, and make sure you're drying them out. Contact your physician if you kind of ever have an infection. And then one final thing I want to leave you guys off with is Isaiah 55:3. Incline your ear and come to me, listen that you may live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, according to the faithful mercies shown to David. So obviously it's very, very challenging to listen. We might even have to learn a new way of perceiving signals and relaying information, maybe through sign language, I mean, if we lose our hearing due to silly issues. So obviously we want the best for you guys, so make sure you're kind of taking really good care of this. And that is all I have.